Welcome, ladies. This is Empowered Ease, the podcast where we challenge the patriarchy by empowering women to take control of their health, mind, body, and spirit. My name is Jen Olinger. I'm a holistic coach, founder of the Moonflower Collective, and a critical care nurse. Join me each week as I interview healers, health practitioners, and women like you while they share their inspiring stories and their unique approaches to women's health and empowerment. So, like and subscribe so you never miss an episode, and follow along as we learn to step into our power and embrace a life of ease. Okay, tell me a little bit about how you developed this rage painting, or kind of how your nonprofit came about.
So, first and foremost, I got back into painting, into my art. It'll be 4 years this summer, but it started because of a car accident that will be 4 years in April that happened. And I suffered like a very big concussion that I didn't even hit my head that hard. I didn't even know I hit my head. I did not pass out or anything like that. And the wreck was not that bad. But apparently I slammed my head against the window. And a couple days later, I started having the symptoms of having a concussion, like really bad. And it lasted weeks and it just kind of continuously got worse. So, which became post-concussive syndrome. And with that, I had major migraines, light sensitivity, noise sensitivity, tinnitus, which is ringing or any foreign noise inside the ear. A lot of people associate it with just ringing, but apparently it's any noise that's inside the ear and you can't hear outside. And sometimes it's horror so bad that you just feel sick and you have to lay down. But with that, it also messed with my speech. And at first, I didn't notice that I had anything wrong with my speech. I didn't know there was a delayed reaction in thought versus what was coming out and processing. But after a few weeks and a month, I started noticing it, and it became so frustrating that being frustrated about it, being upset that I wasn't able to communicate, stressed me out even more. So being stressed out caused it to be worse, which also caused the post-concussive syndrome symptoms to be worse and all that lovely stuff. So going through speech therapy and physical therapy, both my therapists suggested I get back into art because they started noticing that I have a very creative mind because I would notice little objects and pictures on the ceilings that have the little black dots all over them that you find in doctors' offices and
The
hospitals.
ceiling tiles, yeah.
Yeah. And I would just find random objects and going into like the CT room where you get CT CAT scans from. I would actually, they have pictures and pretty art up on the ceiling. I started finding animals in the trees that nobody else saw. Well, they didn't notice them, and I started pointing them out to them. So now they actually point the animals out to other patients so the patients can be a little bit calmer going through the CT machine. Aww. And so they're like, you have such a creative mind. You need to, like, have you ever painted or done any art? It's like, yeah, I did when I was younger. What about writing? It's like, oh yeah, I love writing, but with the light sensitivity and everything, I also had a problem with my eyes. I say that I broke my eyes because my eyes don't focus like they're supposed to anymore. where if I'm looking off in the distance and then I go to look at something close up, at first my eyes would not refocus at all. And in order to get them to refocus, I would have to close my eyes completely for a couple seconds and then face whatever it was that I was going to be looking at and then open my eyes. But with that, looking at words or numbers or anything that's small writing, even the clock, the digital clock on the stove in the microwave would double over and get blurry so that everything would mush together.
Oh,
And
how
if I,
frustrating.
oh, yes. And so if I looked at it for more than like a minute, I would get extreme migraines because my eyes were trying to focus and trying to line everything up, but it wasn't working. So it overstimulated my brain and my optic nerves. So I couldn't write. And when I did write, it was very interesting to watch later how my words went around the page.
Oh, yeah.
And so I tried drawing as well, but I had the same issue because of the lines, and which was very interesting with drawing. But you start learning that the real line is in the middle, or if there's like 5 lines, you eventually find the one that's the right line and you just follow it. But that takes a lot of time and a lot of frustration. So I
Yeah.
started painting. And at first, I just painted like fluid paint and just did little flowers and stuff like that. I did watch tutorials to get myself back into painting because I've been out of practice for over 20 years. So I watched a lot of tutorials. After a few months, I had a friend go, "Hey, you're not stumbling over your words as much as you were before." I'm like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, your speech is becoming so much clearer." I was like, "Really?" And they go, "Yeah. Are you painting?" And they go, "Are you painting every day?" I was like, "Yeah, I am." Because I started giving my stuff away because I had so much. And
Oh,
I
as you
would do,
started painting more, your speech got better. What was the time frame on this that you saw
um,
improvement?
well, I, it was probably a couple months, like 2 months at the least, was when everybody started noticing a difference. But if I look back at it, it was very gradual, very slow process to where I wasn't as stressed. I felt a little more relaxed. Even like at the time, I didn't realize it, but looking back, I can see that there was a time where I was started getting less frustrated. I started not worrying about stuff. It wasn't constantly on my mind. And being in doing art and painting helped with that. And after a couple months of the speech problems, um, people started noticing a difference. And within 6 months, it was completely clear. But if you notice today, there's still times that I have to pause because I'll start stumbling over my words, or the specific word won't come to me right away. So I have to pause. But I'm actually able to get out the things that I'm trying to say. Whereas before, like 4 years ago, I wasn't able to. So yeah.
That's amazing. So tell me, how far out from your accident were you when you started painting?
I started painting. My accident was in April 2021. I
Mhm.
started painting um right before uh I'm trying to timeline it with school. It was probably towards the beginning, middle of summer. So probably about the end of June, early July is when I actually started painting. And but like trying to do the writing and the journaling and the drawing was probably, accident was in April, June. I started all that in May, or tried to.
Okay.
And then my painting itself, I started very slowly around the end of June to early July. And then by November and that December, a lot of people started noticing the big difference.
Wow. That's
So it was,
amazing.
when somebody pointed it out, I was like, oh my gosh.
That's
But
amazing.
so I continued it. And then in 2022, like mid 2022, everybody started suggesting that I start selling my artwork. I'm like, I'm not that good. But my speech improved so much more over the next 6 months, from December to like June of 2022. And my balance even improved. And when I'm having like really bad migraines, I'll go paint, and it helps ease the migraines off, and it'll help ease the tinnitus and stuff off as well. Because when you're not doing anything, those things become more noticeable to you when it's bothering you. So when you do something that you enjoy, like painting, and just getting your mind to focus on something else or not focus at all, your symptoms improve. It might be just
That's
for that
amazing.
10 minutes, but for that 10 minutes, you're not having to suffer from all that pain or anxiety, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I love that. That's beautiful.
And so through all that, I did start selling my art. And in 20, was it 2023, I decided I was going to join a creative, it was creative mastermind, um and that helped creative women grow their creative businesses. And so I started that in 2023, and that was January 2023, and to help me grow what I was assuming was going to be my painting business. So but as I started, I was like, how is my art itself going to help other people? Because I wanted to help, I started wanting to help other people with their problems like I had, similar to mine, in a
Mm-hmm.
way that art helped me. But
Mm-hmm.
at the time, I was like, well, how's somebody just buying a piece of painting going to help in situations like that? Yes, paintings do make people happy just looking at the art and it resonating with them. But
Mm-hmm.
in the back of my mind, I'm like, no, there's got to be something more to my art that I can help people with. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, duh, it's been very therapeutic for me. So therapeutic art, is that such a thing? I googled it, and if it is, there's actually like art therapists. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. And so I started digging deeper into the therapeutic art side of everything. And with my speech therapist and my physical therapist, they taught me breathing exercises like breath work and some meditation exercises too, that you don't have to sit still for. So I wanted to try to incorporate that into doing my art, which I did without even realizing it at first. But I wanted to find a way to actively and consciously do that together with art and breath work and mindfulness.
Like being more intentional with the way you use it and when you're using it.
Yes,
Like, okay, I love
yes,
that.
to intentionally help you release that stress and to help you get those emotions out. Because what I started noticing at the same time that my speech was getting better I started noticing before I started painting again, I started noticing that old things from my past, abusive relationships and stuff like that started coming up. All the flashbacks started coming back up with things I thought I dealt with, thought I got over. Well, in honesty, I just buried it down deep and was like, I'm not going to let it bother me anymore. But your body says, knock, knock, knock. Nope.
I think a lot of us do that, right? Hello, I'm not going anywhere.
Yep. And so when I started digging deeper into therapeutic art and the mindfulness side of everything, I started peeling back those layers of myself and my past and purging it out instead of just burying it deep. I started letting it out, working through the emotions, connecting with the past trauma. So when you connect with it and you acknowledge it, yep, hi, that happened. Hi, abusive incident.
Yeah.
You even though that happened to me, you made me be able to stand up. You made me stronger for that. So that's you connecting to that incident that you felt bad about and that you've tried to hide. And then
so like revisiting and reframing your trauma.
Yes, instead of it taking you over,
okay,
you basically stand face to face with it and get to the point to where it's not bigger than you and you just shrink it down and eventually it's your same size. So then you can face off with it, so to speak,
yeah,
and work through it. And
yeah.
when you work through it after connecting to it and acknowledging that it happened or that you feel that way, you can work through it and help yourself live past it and acknowledge that's part of you. It's not who you are. It's not, it doesn't make you, and it's not you. But it did happen and it's made you stronger for it. And once you realize that you can be stronger and that you can step over that and step past it, actually, not step over it, because if you step over it, you're just letting it linger.
Yeah.
So you're having to open that door and take that step and take that leap to go through your trauma, to go through those negative thoughts and the negative emotions. And when you do that, you're that weight that you've carried for so long starts falling off. And I do that with a lot of things. I did that with my past. There's still times that some things still come up, but it doesn't bother me as much as it did before. And that's
it gets
okay.
easier as you do it.
Yes, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that those things will never ever bother you again, because that's not, I can't promise that, you know?
Yeah.
But when you work through it and you acknowledge it, it helps you to where if it ever comes back up again or something similar happens again, you have a better way of dealing with it, working through it, and not letting it beat you down.
What a resilient way to approach, like a way to practice resiliency. Take your negative feelings and make them a positive experience. I love it.
Well, and towards September of 2023, I got my certification in therapeutic art in August 2023, and my certification certificate for self-healing, the breath work and the meditation process of the therapeutic side of it. And I've started putting it together. So towards the end of September, of course, I was questioning myself, like, how do I know and how can I show people? And this is probably why what happened next happened. But I was like, how am I going to be able to show people that it actually works for now? Because I don't have anything now that's really going on. well, you got to be careful with what you ask for, because the very next month, October 2023, my abusive ex got custody of my son. He came up here from Alabama with papers from the Alabama judge saying that that Alabama judge was giving him custody of my son and restricting my visitation and taking my visitation away until further notice. And how he did this was he basically lied and falsified information. And I was not aware if there was a court date or anything like that. So I wasn't there. I wasn't at the court date in August 2023 to plead my case, plead why I wasn't in Alabama and why I came back to North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And so in October, he came up here and presented the judge up here with those papers. And on October 27th, I had to watch my son leave. And I've been fighting it ever since. So, screen painting was actually, thank you. Screen painting was actually born from that, because I did paint and I did try to help myself through this time. And at first I thought I was, and lying to yourself, not being in denial that you're not okay. So one day I got into an argument with my boyfriend, and I could have sworn I was pissed off, mad at him. And I was like, forget this. I'm going outside. And I was like, you know what? Instead of just going outside, I'm going to grab my paint, I'm going to grab my easel, and I'm going to grab my canvas. And at this time, the canvas I had was a 2 foot by 3 foot canvas. And I came into my art room and I sat in front of my paints. So it's like, I can't just grab paints. What color resonates with what I'm feeling right now? And at the time, it was such a huge cluster of emotions and feelings and frustration. And at the time, I didn't know that it was like a whole bunch of everything at the same time. Being upset about what happened with my son, being frustrated that he wasn't there for Christmas or New Year's, feeling like nobody understood what I was going through. Nobody understood. I felt like nobody was taking me seriously. I felt like nobody was taking the situation seriously. So it was a whole bunch of everything piled together. And then me and boyfriend got into an argument, and it just started to overwhelm and explode. But before it exploded, I came in. I sat down with my paints, and whatever color came to me with what I was feeling is what I grabbed. I grabbed the paints and I mixed them so they would run more easily on the canvas. And I packed my backpack and my canvas bag and everything. And at first I was like, oh, I grabbed brushes and things because I was like, I had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew I was going to go paint. I knew I needed to scream. And so when I got out there, I set everything up. And at this point, I took a stick and dipped it into one of my paint bottles. And I was just writing on the canvas with the stick. And then I threw paint on there. And the more I threw paint, at first I was just like easy dripping the paint on there, like, and then I was like, ugh, and started throwing the paint on there. I took the paint and rubbed it all over my hands and started punching the canvas, even with my non-dominant hand. And then I saw a pine cone. And I picked that pine cone up. I drenched it with paint. And at first I was like, tossed it just barely because I was like, oh, I don't want to break the canvas. I think I can do a little bit better than that. Let's see how much this canvas can take. Because I've already punched it. I've already smacked it with a stick, and the canvas still held up. So I was like, oh, great. If it breaks, you know what? Whatever. if this canvas just falls apart, I don't care. I've got to let this out. And so I started throwing the pine cone. And at the same time I was throwing the pine cone, I was just screaming. And at one point I even was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, why? Yelling at my ex, yelling at boyfriend, yelling at myself, yelling at God, even.
I feel
and
you.
And stomping on the ground on the devil's head, And then I realized that I actually wasn't mad at my boyfriend. But
Great.
so I started throwing that pine cone, and I hit the canvas every single time. And I just threw it harder and harder and harder. And this one time I threw the pine cone so hard, it went over the canvas and just barely touched the top. It just scraped off and bounced and went flying through the woods. And I just started laughing. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. And all of a sudden, I realized that all that frustration and everything negative I was feeling, all the anger, all the just wanting to hit someone was gone. And that's when I decided, I was like, you know what? I like where I am right now. I'm not going to do anymore. And I stepped back. I was like, holy cow. That is amazing. I can't believe I did that. And then it was all the trees the way they were at that point. At first I was like, oh, I'm going to put grass there. I'm going to put this here and this there. And after a meeting I had, because I stopped painting outside because I had a meeting I had to go to on Zoom. So I stopped for an hour, and then I was like, oh, I know I'm not done for today. And so I started doing the details on the trees and everything. And at 5 o'clock that evening, I stopped. And I was like, well, I know it's not done. And I took a step back. I was like, oh my, I took a picture of it. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Oh my. And it just sat with me, and it was like overwhelmingly beautiful and surprising that that came from me. And then later that night, I'm like, no, she's done. There's nothing else I need to do with this. It doesn't need grass. It's perfect the way it is. And oh my God, like everybody loved it. And I wanted to keep it. But my boyfriend said that and he's right, I needed to put that emotion out to other people so they can experience it as well. And at first, I didn't know that anybody was going to feel what I felt at the time I was doing it. But I went to an event and I set it up, not expecting to sell it. And everybody, that was the main attraction. Everybody just gravitated towards it. And they're like, oh my God, you
Wow.
feel all the emotions in that. I was like, really? You can? It's like, yeah. You were like mad, angry, laughing. I was like, yeah, actually it was. It was all of that. And
That's so
so
cool
like
that
they
people could
saw it.
see that.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. And somebody actually bought it, and they bought it for $250.
Awesome. That's
So
amazing.
I hate that it's gone, but at the same time, I'm glad that somebody got it that loves it.
Yeah.
I am making prints of it, and I have it on the background of my computer. It's
Oh, good. You
honestly,
saved a copy of what it looks like. I love that.
oh yeah, I did. I have it everywhere. It's on my Facebook page.
Oh, so people can
It's
see it. What's
everywhere.
your Facebook page?
My Facebook page is Chris Hurley. It's CRYSHURLEY, like the
Mhm.
brand Hurley.
Mhm.
And then on my nonprofit page, it's Graceful Art Dash
Mhm.
Nonprofit.
Awesome. So if people want to see it,
But
they can check it out.
yes, and so that's how spring painting was born. And I started doing it more. It took me a little bit to do another one, of course, because you aren't always wanting to scream, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank
So I
goodness.
did. You're right. And so I do paint, but like my paintings are different than my screen paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And each screen painting is completely different. You don't have to make a beautiful picture. You don't have to have a scenic view or anything. It can be, you can leave it as chaotic as you want, or you can bring the positive and bring in less chaos into the painting if you'd like. And, or you can do like mixed media endings, like that one up there at the top. I know y'all can't see it, but it basically I did it in texture.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very textured. And I did it in different layers with the purging first, and different layers of textured paint, which I made myself. Like I use salt for texture or sand.
Oh, cool.
And on top of doing each layer, I started taking magazine clippings of words, like positive words, and pictures, even stickers of different things that made me happy and that made me think of something happy. And I put it onto the canvas as well. And I didn't cover everything up. But some things did get covered up, and just little bits here and there covered up. Some are completely showing. And I even started seeing a woman's face start to form. So I embellished on it, and like I made her hair, so to speak, in the different textures and different objects. Like I put a butterfly, a 3D butterfly sticker to where her hair would be. So it looked like a hair clip. So, and then one of my trees are also in there. So it can be anything. And another one I've done is like used watercolors. And the watercolor one was done on my son's birthday, this in 2024. Um, and I had to use my inside paint voice because it was dark and I was here by myself, and I didn't get to talk to him, and I wanted to cry. So I grabbed a tablecloth and put it out on the floor. I grabbed a canvas, and at this point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do watercolors. And I got the canvas wet. I started dripping the watercolors everywhere, and then took a straw and started blowing it different directions. And it came out really cool. It took a few hours. And then I did neurographic art on it
What
as
is
well. So
explain what the neurographic painting is, because that's really cool too.
it is. The neurographic art is basically, it's neuro, like your brain, your neurons from your brain, like what you were talking about earlier. Um, it helps you. You can do it different ways. The therapeutic way is to take your problem that you want to solve that you don't have an answer for, and write it on the back of the canvas or the paper, whatever you're doing it on, write it on the back. And then again, breathing and letting yourself just go. And you take a pen, a marker, whatever you want to do, and take and draw a line from one side of the paper to the other. But when I say draw a line, you don't purposely draw a straight line, purposely draw a curved line. If you feel like you need to go up with your hand in your pen, you're supposed to go down, because you're transforming. You're supposed to go the opposite direction of what your mind wants
So you're
you to do.
fighting your urges. You're trying to do the opposite of every
Yes,
instinct in
you're
it.
letting
Okay.
go of control to where
Ooh.
you're reframing your thought process, because the lines of neuro art is your thoughts. And when you reframe them and stop going in the direction that you're used to going,
Mm-hmm.
and change the direction of what's normal, that helps you reshape and reform
So
your
it's kind of like a
thought.
doodle. You like start a line, and then the whole time you're trying to do the opposite of what you're instinctually
Yep.
wanting to do, and you just let that flow.
Yes. And the idea of the lines It's not like it's not like taking a line and just drawing it until you stop all over the paper. It's different lines, and it can go up, down, sideways, or whatever.
So you
And
fill the
from
paper
one
with
end,
like several of these
yep,
full
from one end
lines
of the paper
to
to
the
the
other.
other. Yep. And like you don't want to bring that line back to the same side, because you're taking that thought and you're weaving it in and out to the other end, to the
Okay.
other side of your problem. And so you're trying, so the idea of neurographic art is helping you figure out how to work a problem out, even if you're not thinking about it at that moment. You eventually will like, oh yeah, you know what, it's just comes to you. It's hard to explain.
It's like
But
you're like tricking your brain into being open to something different, is what it sounds
yes,
like.
yes, that's exactly, you're exactly right. And in the neurographic art, there's different shapes going deeper into the therapeutic side. There's
Oh,
different
so
shapes that
each
mean
is
different
like
things.
there's a meaning associated with some of these
Yes,
like
yes,
shapes and things that you're doing. Oh, how interesting to do
yep,
that and then look it up.
yes.
Oh,
And
cool.
like the therapeutic side of it too. Again, I did this for like the screen painting, but for from the therapeutic side, from the problem solving part of it, and not
Mhm.
just making it pretty art, is the colors. You can choose whatever colors you want, but the colors, um if you do red on one side, you have to balance it out and do red on the other side. and
Oh,
and you have to do like, you can't do one section, you have to do like three or more sections. Like when I say sections, it's like different parts of each side of the line.
okay.
So you can have three parts you color in, but if you do that, you have to do the other side,
So it needs to be
because you're
symmetrical
balancing.
with the
Yes,
colors. The
yes,
lines are not symmetrical, but your colors are symmetrical.
yep. Mhm.
Okay. What does that do? Do you know?
It helps you balance out your inner self and
Okay.
your emotions. Um, but I did forget one part. When before you do the colors and stuff
Mhm.
and the shapes, you want to take the intersections. And intersections is where the lines cross over each other,
Okay.
and round out the corners, because those sharp edges of the corners where your thoughts overlap
Where they
are,
turn.
yes, are sharp edges, and those thoughts, they're like, oh, where you're stuck.
Uh-huh.
And it's just like binding. So when you round them out, um uh it makes it smoother and
Hmm.
easier to navigate through the thoughts.
So you let yourself go freely, fighting your instincts, lines all over the paper. Does it matter how many lines you put?
Nope.
Nope. So as
And
many
you can
lines as you're
even,
feeling from one
yep,
side of the paper to another corner of the
yep.
paper. And then you
And
go
they
through.
never, and no line is supposed to, you're not supposed to mimic the line, if that
Okay,
makes
so
sense.
no
So
two
if you
lines
do
are the
like,
same.
yep,
You
yep,
let yourself flow with each one, fighting your instinct, trying to do the opposite. Then you go back and you soften all the sharp edges and
edges,
turns with
yep.
what, like the same color? You go over each
You,
draw over
yes,
it.
yep, the
I
same
think the one
color.
I saw of yours, it almost looked like you had thickened some of your lines, like drawn over the
Yes.
lines some more.
Yep. And that's where the intersections are.
Okay. So,
And
oh, okay. So where they cross over each other, you're thickening those areas up.
yes,
It actually, okay. So we're describing this, but if you know what neurons in the brain look like, do you have this picture
it,
on your website too?
I do. I
Okay.
don't think it's on my website yet, but it is on Facebook,
Okay.
and it is also on the nonprofit page, Graceful Art Nonprofit, and on the Chris Hurley
It
page.
ends up actually looking similar to like
The
what a
neurons that you're saying.
neuron looks like up close under a microscope. That's why it's so
Yes.
interesting. And then
And
you
that's why it's
balance
called
out the color.
neuro. Yep.
Why it's called what?
Neuro.
Oh, okay.
Like,
It's really cool. I mean, turns out looking really cool too. It reminds me of some of the doodles I would do in high school, but like with
yes.
much more intention behind it.
Yes, yes. And so like I said,
So
it's
that's
not,
an exercise for when you're feeling stuck and like
it
you need a
can be.
solution. Okay.
Yep. Yep, that it definitely can be. That is one factor of neuro graphic art. And then, people also turn it into just, oh, I forgot I didn't put it back on the wall.
No, you
But like what I did here is I didn't go into the therapeutic process of neuro art itself. I did the colors, but I didn't know I was going to do neuro art at first. Again, it's just
Yeah. What
when you're
came out
doing
when you
screen
needed
painting,
it.
it just you go with the flow and whatever you feel like at that time, go with it.
Yeah.
And that's what I was like, okay, I'm gonna do neuro art and in my neurons. At first, I was just going to like doodle on it, and then like as I did a line, it just ended up being a neuro line, and I just did more. And then after I did the lines and rounded them out, I also put positive affirmations and positive words around the different ones.
Oh, I
And
love
I
that.
put my son's name in the middle. So when I hung it up, and when you look at it like this, you really can't see much. Uh, you just see colors in the lines. When I hung it up with his name being right side up in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just looking at it, there is a dark figure that looks like a person, and in the person you can see the face just looks mean, and it just goes around his name off to the side behind all the lines, and then there's another face, just a face like almost like they're trying to eat him up, going down towards his name, but also again above where all the thick lines are. And when I looked at that, I'm like, oh my God, it's like keeping him from evil. It's keeping him safe because where his name is like, if you look at his name, it's right here, just where it's all bright.
Oh yeah. If you
And
look at the
and
painting, it's like in the center and it's circled by
it's
like some really bright, vibrant
some
colors with the
the
dark
bright
outside
blue
it.
and bright
Yeah.
red. And then like the figure that I was talking about is over here. You probably can't see it here,
Yeah, the
but it's
camera's
off
not
to
that
the
clear.
it's off to the right upper side of the painting, and the face that looks like it's eating him is like on the right upper side, but slightly lower than the big figure. I was just looking, I was like, oh my God, that's really cool. It's really cool how the colors and the lines just form different things. And I know if somebody else looks at it, they're not going to see the same thing. And that's fine because that's the great thing about art. You
I
don't
was like, that's
always,
kind of the point, right? There, you're pulling
yes,
your own demons out of there. I love it. That's so
exactly.
cool. So cool. Well, Crystal, this is amazing. I think this is so cool. So you teach other people this now.
Yes.
What kind of people are you teaching?
I'm my focus and the reason I did this nonprofit, why I'm building the nonprofit, is because I'm trying to reach anybody that needs help with releasing their emotions and want to do it in a creative, fun way, in a different, healthy way. But
Mm-hmm.
my main people that I'm wanting to help the most are those that can't afford to go out and spend $150 to $250 an hour at a therapist or anything like that to help release some of the things that the negative thoughts and the things that are going on in their lives. I wasn't able to, and if it wasn't for insurance, I wouldn't have been able to go to the physical therapist or the speech therapist.
Yeah, and you kind of
And
stumbled upon art therapy by chance, and I don't know, think that's covered by insurance. So,
um, yeah, it's I found one company that is
oh, that's cool.
nearby. Yep, but it's not completely covered by insurance. It's
Yeah,
like
so it's a
half and half.
struggle. That's so
Yep.
awesome that you're trying to provide it for people for free. So do you do these when you do these workshops or classes with people where you teach them this art therapy and your scream art, do you do it all in person? Do you do any of that virtually?
yes, I am wanting not to just reach my local community, but I'm also wanting to venture out and reach the online community too. So
Mhm.
when I do this, like I, again, because this is brand new, and last month I did on the 19th and the 26th, I did of January, I did in-person classes. But on the 18th and the 25th on Saturday, I did my online class, and I did it in a private Facebook group, and it was a paid ticket one. So to help raise money for getting supplies and getting my fees and stuff going for the nonprofit. So right now I am offering low priced ticket classes.
Beautiful.
Excuse me. And what I'm because this was brand new to me, doing the online and doing in person, I am tweaking it a little bit. And I do, when I do an online one, I also want to be able to do the in person the same weekend or in the same time frame. But the online one would be inside a private Facebook group where even the in person people that participate in person would also be able to access the online, the Facebook group or the private group as well.
Awesome. I love that. And then you use you're going to use any money you make to put back into the company to get art supplies. And so if someone's
Yes.
interested in learning more about this, about either donating or, getting a class with you or putting you in connection with someone that could benefit from this, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, you can either go and message me on Chris Hurley. You can DM me there, or you can DM me at Graceful Art Nonprofit on Facebook, or you can go to my website, which is Graceful Art, the N, like the letter N. So it's
Mhm.
Graceful Art and Self Healing. Sorry, it's
Mhm.
not self healing.
I'm going to put this on
Self
the
awakening.
notes too, the show notes, but
So it's Graceful Art, the
mhm.
letter N, and then selfawakening.com.
I love that. Beautiful. So I ask everyone this, Miss Crystal, but what is your go-to self-care when you're having like a hard time? What's the thing you do that helps you find peace and picks you up? It's your number
My
one.
art.
Really? Yeah, I love
Thanks.
I would guess no less,
Yes.
but
But no, if I'm not able to, if I'm not able to paint, or if I'm not able to go outside,
mhm,
um I have my sketchbooks. I have, you can do it on a piece of paper.
mhm,
I will do the neurographic art. If something's bothering me, I will try to do it the therapeutic way, write the problem out on the back, who is doing it, or like what's causing it, and then do the lines and try to figure out the solution.
mhm.
And but let it come to me. I don't try to force it, because if you try to force it, you're gonna overthink it, and then you're just gonna
Yeah.
get overwhelmed with all the thoughts that come to you at once.
I bet
But
that's
if
part of the therapy is learning how to let it flow because it's not
yes,
easy for us.
no, it's not. But and that's why, like, if you still yourself going a certain way, oh nope, let me go this way, because you're redirecting your thoughts and
I love
your
that.
thought process. The
That's so
other
cool.
thing that I really like to do, other than doodle and my the screen painting, is Zentangles. I love Zentangles. So yes, like those type of things is my go-to when I'm stressed out and can't paint.
I love
Another
that.
thing that I try to do every morning, I don't do it every morning, but I try to do the affirmations. I am strong, I am
Yeah. Yeah.
creative, and I won't, or um, I am,
Yeah,
those
I
I
love my
am.
affirmations as well. Morning and night. I don't do them every day, but I do them a lot. So
Yeah. And another thing that I do or try to do when I feel like I've woke up in a bad mood is I would go and draw my breath. And basically all it is I draw a line. When I breathe in, the line goes up. I breathe out, the line goes down.
Oh, that's
And
genius.
if I'm holding, like if I hold my breath for the count of 4, 3, 4 count, I go up until I let the breath out, and then I go down until I stop exhaling. And if I pause and just, hold it for a minute and not do anything on the breath out, I go straight across and then back up when I inhale again.
Oh, cool.
And
I like that.
and when I'm done with that, I'll go back and look at it. And sometimes when you look at what you've done, whether it's painting, whether it's drawing, whether it's writing, or the neurolines or the zentangles, or even drawing your breath, when you go back and look at it, you will notice something that came up when you were doing that you didn't realize it at the moment. You're like, oh crap, I didn't realize I was thinking that. And if something like that happens, I'll write it down next to the line where I noticed the thought was.
Oh, cool. I like that. That's a cool one. I never even thought of
Whether
that.
it's negative or positive, that I write it down next to the breath line.
I think drawing your breath work sounds like a really interesting idea.
It is. It helps you relax from feeling like today's gonna go bad.
I love that.
Again, it's reframing your thoughts and just redirecting your
Especially for
thought
people that are
process.
like more physical, people who need to
Yeah.
express things physically or have just like more creative brains where they need that creative. I love that. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Crystal. Is there anything
Thank
else
you
you
for
want to
having me.
add before we go?
You can, if you want to find more, you can go to my link tree, which is linktree / graceful art NP for nonprofit.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. I cannot wait to see what you do. I think you're just at the beginning of all this beautiful stuff.
Yes, I am, and it has helped me out so much. If I wasn't doing this and the stuff happened with my son and I wasn't doing anything like this, I would have gone like mentally crazy. I probably would have had a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
But doing my art and finding my screen painting has helped me realize how strong me and my son both really are, and help me figure out and see other ways of going about doing things with getting him back.
Yeah. I love that. What a beautiful story of resilience. I hope you get to touch many other people that can benefit from your services, Miss
I hope
Crystal.
so too.
Thank you so much.